Yo, yo, happy Friday. What's up, beautiful people? DJ O on the ones and twos, my dude. Bro, I could keep it going with that New York vibe all day. I didn't really want to stop you, to be honest. Great to have you all here. Thank you for joining. This is dope, people. We got a dope episode. We got a dope person on the show. And it's our season finale, season 2. It's been a good one. But first, I want to introduce the host as always. Lulu, what's happening?
Greetings from Mexico. Things are super chill. Tribute today, 9/11. New York City, never forget, our season finale. And super excited to have our purveyor of New York Cannabis Culture, Vladimir Bautista, on the show today. So thank you for being here, Vladimir. Peter, also our co-host, our Chief Knowledge Officer, in the park today. How's it going over in New York?
Smells loud out here. You got construction workers lighting up for their lunch toke. So it's very New York out here. I'm also happy to hear that we got my fellow Dominican putting on for all of us in the city. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him. Happy Munkey season finale.
Yeah. Absolutely. Once again, it's the 19th anniversary actually of 9/11, which is crazy to think about. Never forget. It was only right that we focus on New York today. It's a day we all feel deep in our hearts, but a pleasure to have the man, the legend, Vladimir of Happy Munkey. What's good, bro?
Just happy to be here. Honored, for you guys to have me on the season finale and on such a historic day in New York like 9/11. So just happy to be here, to spread the positive vibes and keep the people uplifted during these crazy times and on, awful bad day to remember, but we got to stay positive,
Yeah, absolutely. And of all people, man, I know you bring the positive vibes. Even in the background, you got the happy time picture,
Choose happy.
Choose happy. I love it. Peter, I know you're in the park. What's happening in the world this week?
Well, we wanted to keep it focused on New York. So I got a couple stories on New York. The New York State County Association, so all the counties in New York, released a statement earlier this week that they are encouraging the state government to look into legalization because as the word is trending, New York is supposed to be dead post-COVID. A lot of businesses and a lot of people are moving out. So counties now are recognizing that there's a need for revenue from somewhere, and they're hoping that will be cannabis. So this is the first time that they've come out and really pushed for and stated things in this way. So hopefully there's enough momentum. Cuomo's kind of put it on the side, but the fact that they've issued a statement is pretty good news.
What do you make of that, Vladimir?
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense because, right now the deficit is very big. People are very stressed, and I think it'll be a win-win if it goes through for the people and for the government, which needs to, play catch up as far as the deficit and what they've been through in the last year. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to take serious consideration of bringing that forward to the bill into fruition in the near future.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. On one end, I'm optimistic, right? This is a push towards the energy that we want. And in many ways, the COVID pandemic has been like the great catalyzer of things that we thought were going to happen eventually, but are forced to happen quickly. My concern, though, is if that is the main focus of legalization and it's purely to get tax revenue, I think it's really easy to forget about the reasons that I care about legalization, and that's social justice and the plant is medicine, right? And those are fundamental values to me. Making money is also very important too, but I think that gets lost if that's the main focus here.
Well, I believe they've had enough time to watch all the mistakes that the rest of the states made. So I feel like by now, it's never going to be perfect, but they should have a good idea of how to do it a little better than, I guess, they have a lot of examples to go off of. So shouldn't be as hard as like the first couple of states for them to get it better.
Yeah, we'll see. We had
We'll see.
Andrew D'Angelo last time, and he had some great gems. Peter, what else is happening?
I wanted to bring light to the ballot initiative going on in New Jersey. The state legislature and the state senate and assembly weren't able to pass legalization through those means. So now what they've done is put it as a question on the ballot. For those of you in New Jersey, you will be asked this question come election day, and you want to answer yes. So for those of you in Jersey, please be aware, please tell your friends. Cannabis is medicine, and you will be encouraging those who have not yet voted yes on legalization in Jersey to, with this ballot initiative, reinforce that momentum and show that it is the will of the people to get this done.
Peter, can we make sure to share a link to that information with the ballot initiative?
For sure. Yeah, we'll put it in our newsletter, and I'll try and make it into the chat.
Cool, you man. All right, last, I think you have one more topic.
Yeah, so New York, everyone criticizes it for not allowing flower, but some of these dispensaries have gone around that by having ground flower inside little pods. But then Curaleaf this week got dinged for not having grounded up enough flower in their pods, along with some other claims. So it's just the Department of Health in New York State digging them for that is very strange, but I wanted that to be a warning to the kind of pettiness that is going on right now on the medical side.
I don't know, man. I remember when Curaleaf announced this, right? They were the first dispensary to have flower. It's in a pod that's supposed to be for vaping. It's not very difficult to understand really what people are going to use it for. And it's a little petty to go after them for this, right? They're following the rules to my understanding. I think what they said is the grounds of the flower was too big inside the pod, which is so stupid.
So petty. And then Columbia Care and all these other chains still have their products available. Who knows if their summons or anything is coming down the line.
I guess they're pissing off the wrong people. But one other thing I want to make on that is fundamentally dispensaries, especially in New York, are about their patients, right? And this is just doing a disservice to the patients. This is the city being petty, or the state, I forget. And now there's patients that aren't getting medicine that they rely on in a form factor that they find conducive to their health condition. So at the bottom of it, like, they need to remember why they're doing this. And that's why I really find this, annoying.
Bad enough they don't have access to actual full spectrum flower, the little ground up stuff that barely, people take too seriously, except for, like you said, patients that really need it. And you're gonna also oppress that from the people and from the companies. It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, good point. Just in the way they constructed this from the beginning was bullshit.
So it's just adding insult to injury.
Absolutely. Thanks for the recap of the week, Peter. Let's get into it with our guy Vlad here. I had the honor of meeting Vlad. What was it? Maybe 2 years ago at MJ BizCon.
Yeah.
Instantly, I knew this was the guy that I had to know. Both coming in from New York. but now we have the honor of having you here. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got started into the cannabis industry, but then I want to learn a little bit more about Happy Munkey.
I'm Vladimir Bautista, CEO and co-founder of Happy Munkey LLC, born and raised New York City, Harlem, Hamilton Heights, and cannabis has always been part of my life, from consuming it to, you know, having to do what I had to do in the legacy market back in the day, to in all aspects, you know, coming from, you know, the bottom of economic society, from the hood, you know, where there was so many other options of different, you know, drugs and illicit activities. I just felt like, you know, cannabis was my savior as far as, like, you know, mentally helping me get through growing up in a rough area. And then even like when it came time to do whatever I had to do to make a couple of dollars to get by, it was also the best option when it came to that, because I didn't feel like I was harming my community like if I was selling something else or doing something else. So cannabis has always been a part of my life. Then the real epiphany happened was when my partner Ramon went to Amsterdam about 4 years ago. And he's not, as you know him, Jacobi, he's not as outgoing as I am. He's more of an introvert. And he sat at a cafe and he smoked with people from all over the world that he didn't know, and had like a really touching experience at this cafe. So he came back, he know that I had a lot of knowledge and a lot of resources, and he said, we have to do this here. And I looked at him like he was crazy. You heard, Jacobi? And he was like, no, I'm telling you, this is what's missing here. And I was like, it sounds kind of crazy, but we'll give it a shot, right? And it went 0 to 1,000 fairly quickly. We started doing events. Then, you know, the events turned into more of a mainstay lounge kind of flow. Then we went into merchandise, which you see right here. Then we went into apparel. Now we're knee deep in media. We've turned into a multimedia conglomerate, basically. Right now we have our 3-year anniversary is Tuesday the 15th, which, you know, Jacobi, in the cannabis industry is like dog years, so it's like 21 years. October is the 1-year anniversary of our podcast, 60 episodes, never missed a Monday. You know, that's huge.
Wow.
December is our 1-year anniversary for our e-magazine that has taken off tremendously. It goes out to like 35,000 people a month. And we have contributors from Rolling Stone, New York Times, Boston Globe. So it's just been like a roller coaster and a fairy tale, you know, because and all while representing the thing that we felt once we did our due diligence that didn't have a voice and didn't have a view for the world, which was the New York cannabis culture and corporate. I feel like before us, it didn't really have a voice, and it really didn't have a way for people from outside of New York to really get a bird's eye view of how the culture and the corporate work here differently than other places. And now I'm here, 9/11 with Jacobi and Lulu.
I remember first meeting you, Vlad, at the lounge, and I was just so excited to just see how many different types of people there were there. There was, you know, the stereotypical stoners, there was the suits, there was, you know, entertainment people, and everyone was just like having a really awesome time. And I'm gonna say, like, you and Ramon, the most gracious hosts, just, you know, making everyone feel welcome, introducing, connecting everybody. And I think that's one thing that you really show with Happy Munkey is that New York spirit. You know, a lot of people come to New York feeling really intimidated. Oh, New Yorkers are so rude, but they don't get to see, like, New Yorkers just want you out of the way because they got shit to do. And at the end of it, New Yorkers are the sweetest and most helpful and most like community driven people I've ever experienced. I grew up on the West Coast. West Coast talks about experience or about community all the time, but the East Coast just does it. And I got to say, like, was that your intention when you started, you know, Happy Munkey and all of the things? Like, tell us a little bit more about like, what was that intent and how did this kind of magical New York place of showing, you know, magical, you know, New York people and cannabis come to be?
Well, we did, like I said, you know, I'm not gonna act like we had it all figured out from day one, but we did know one thing, that us being born and raised in New York, we did understand the New York state of mind. And as you guys know, the New York state of mind doesn't stay to any neighborhood or any race. It's a whole state of mind, especially in Manhattan, where from Wall Street to Dykeman, people have a certain edge and a certain mentality and a certain expectation of things. So we knew that the cannabis is one of the few things left in society that people agree on from all different walks of life, sexes, genders, you name it. So we said, we're gonna try our best because we know how Manhattan is very, you know, like exclusive and very exclusionary when it came to hospitality. So we were very big on, we're gonna not have any hierarchies in here, meaning like no VIPs, nobody's better than anybody type of vibe, because we didn't want it to feel like the rest of nightlife and restaurants and hospitality in New York. We want to make it very inclusive, and it was very simple, the requirements to make that happen. As long as you have love for the plant of cannabis, you're a cool, respectful person, everything else was irrelevant. And that was like the perspective at the beginning. And then, of course, as we went along, we went tweaking and went, you know, adding things. But that was like the original thing that we knew going into it.
I mean, it shows. If you ever been to a Happy Munkey event or lounge, that's the experience. There's nobody above the rest. And I think that connects really well with something else that I think you guys do really well. And that's kind of being that intersection of the OGs, the people from the game in the market, the legacy market, as you said, as well as, you know, bankers and suits and, you know, whether you want to, we could say the downtown to the uptown, but we're really considering the entire nation. You guys have connections with athletes, with, you know, maybe even politicians. How do you guys sit in that intersection? How are you able to build those relationships on kind of all different directions?
Well, that came afterwards, like when me and Ramon started going to conferences like MJ Biz, going to Revel, going to so many different, because we knew the culture coming into this. We knew the legacy market, and we knew the, like, you know, the real history of the plant. What we didn't know was the corporate and the regulations. So in the last 3 years, we've done a lot of due diligence on that aspect. And what we came to see was that the biggest divide in the industry is corporate and culture. And, you know, we feel like they both have big roles in this industry being fully optimal, but we also know that until they don't start working together, the industry will never be fully optimal. So we've sort of become the nexus between corporate cannabis and culture cannabis. Since we have both watching us and following us, we feel like we teach corporate about culture and culture about corporate. And it's really gratifying knowing that we're every day trying to like close that gap, because until that gap doesn't get closed, this industry will never be fully optimal at its highest level. And like, you know, like you said, like, you know, us being events and, you know, cool and understanding both sides, we've been able to help them get into rooms, help them understand each other, because I think both have good intentions. It's just a lack of information, a lack of understanding. But as you know, Jacobi and Lulu, when you sit them in a room and the joint is around, it's like, oh, this is not really too different than I am. Just, you know, a little different place, same shit. We all need a joint to forget about our problems. And I feel like that helps break those barriers. It has helped break a lot of those barriers.
Facts. I've seen it firsthand many times. Talk to me a little bit about what the corporate community does not understand, and vice versa, what the legacy community has to learn from the corporate.
Well, I'm going to start with the corporate side. See, the corporate side, I believe, initially had this idea: we're now going into cannabis. Cannabis is being legalized. We're going to clean it up and make it all spick and span and clean and do it a certain way. As you guys both know, that plan failed miserably. And I just believe that they have the wrong perspective on it. They're looking at it like it's an empathy thing, it's a sympathy thing, it's an equity thing. But I try to preach to them, it's a smart business thing. And this is what I try to preach to them, right, Jacobi? If you have a company, a publicly traded company, you're trying to target and make as much money as possible, right? Target as many demographics and make as much money as possible. Well, it's really hard for you to do that, Jacobi, if on your board, you don't have somebody that understands all the demographics. So you're really doing yourself a disservice by not having people of color, gay, etc., whatever type of people on your board and on your team, because you're losing out on money and you're not targeting all the demographics. So I feel like that's something that they don't really understand. That it's not, of course, we know on top of that, you know, it's going to be, you know, an impactful thing you're doing because the people that have been most affected are people of color. But I'm just trying to put it to them like, you not only get to do something good morally, but you also will make more money. You're just not seeing it correctly. So that's what I think that they failed to realize. And then the culture, what they failed to realize is that even though we are the culture and we are the people that have suffered the most, the corporate is still necessary in certain aspects because they know other things that we don't. They have the funding, they have a lot of corporate experience when it comes to banking, litigation. So I feel like the culture needs the corporate too for their business acumen. And I feel like they don't understand that because, like I said, the lack of communication, like, you know, the great barrier in between them. And I think that's the biggest misconception from both sides, in my opinion.
Hey man, I've seen that many a times. I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I live in Hamilton Heights. I love the podcast. I listen to it every Monday. I get the emails too. I had my pin, but I forgot it. Messing up. But what I love about the podcast is you guys have the perspective. I wanted to ask if you could comment on like the New York scene and how it's changed over the past like 20 years, from you guys getting Panama Red from the Jamaicans to at bodegas, which you can still do, but to now having delivery services where they open a case and they have a million different strains.
Well, that's a great question. That has changed so much. I remember when I started smoking, I think I started smoking when I was like 12 or 13 years old. And we would chip in and we would get a nickel bag, we call them a limo nickel bag. And we would roll 2 blunts out of this limo nickel bag. And it was like so amazing to us. Then after that, it evolved. And then they had some better version of that, which was called like Arizona Mango Pina, which is like a better version of the Reggie. And then Hydro came along, and then Hayes came along, and Hayes had a stronghold in New York for about 10 years where that was really what it was all about. That strain like took over here for a long time. Then after that, Sour snuck in, then Gorilla. And then in the last 5 years, I would say, it just became like, you know, there are more strain names in New York now than there are names of people. So it's been a crazy evolution, but it's definitely warped in the last like 5-6 years, I would say.
Vlad, what do you think makes New York different from other markets as well?
Well, that's a very broad question, but it's a good question. New York, first of all, we know this by the numbers, is the highest consuming city in the world. But aside from that, it's just that New Yorkers, as you mentioned earlier, Lulu, are so high strung, so overwhelmed that I think they consume cannabis at a faster rate than anybody else. Because just like it goes to saying the New York minute, you know, I don't think anywhere that I've been, life is as fast paced as here. So I think that goes into that, you know, like as far as like, you know, people are so overwhelmed, people are so stressed, everybody has so much on their plate that the consumption, if you do smoke, goes really higher, really faster. And then that's part of what we felt like we had to represent, right? Lulu, like when we first started, we would Google cannabis images and you would only see people on the beach, you know, stoner and this, and it's like that. There's none of that is here in New York. Like you have the guy on the block in the hood smoking in his stoop, in the basement, in the rooftop. You go to Wall Street, the guy at his lunch break in his suit in front of the building or on the rooftop or whatever. So we felt like we had to show the world that the culture here is totally different than other places. And I feel like the people that here kind of knew, but everybody outside of here really had no idea how the whole culture is here and how, you know, it's totally different than everywhere else. Like I told you, like when I grew up, like I told you, smoking, the options were smoke in a basement, smoke on a rooftop, you smoke in a car. Like I feel like other people can't imagine that that's how people consume here, you know? And I feel like that's what we've done a good job kind of like showing people and slowly but surely in layman's terms, like the big difference between the culture here and other places.
I would even add that I think the businesses are more intricate in New York than in other states, the underground ones specifically, because you got delivery services that are like well-oiled machines, right? You talking to an operator that dispatches their fleet. That's a straight business. That's not like in the suburbs, you just go talk to, you know, some kid from your school and then he's your direct connection. Like there's a whole system rolling. And that's one thing that I just love about the New York environment, because every other industry is like that and they're just as mature.
And that's another thing, like it's like in other anything else, it's a very competitive market. And so it's very competitive as far as like other businesses in the legacy market. And then it's very competitive with the timing that a New Yorker has. Like, you know, if you don't give people efficient service, how they want it, when they want it, you won't be getting their business, especially not in New York.
So true. So true.
I just want to say, you know, I'm just like, I think you, Vlad, and Happy Munkey have been really instrumental in really changing everyone's attitude in New York about cannabis. You know, like since, you know, I've attended your lounges and events, I've seen so many more prop up, and I've seen the people that create those other events at your place. So it's like almost you gave them confidence to do these other things, which has been really, really, really awesome. So I want to just thank you for that. And I think one thing that I want to touch upon is you do a lot with the community. And I think that's something corporate really needs to understand. You know, you've been super supportive of all the things that we do for our events. You've hosted and sponsored so many of our friends' events in cannabis that are trying to do things as well. So I just really want to thank you for that. And I think that that kind of community involvement and education has been, that you guys spearheaded that. And I can see, you know, I've been in New York for about 16 years. In Manhattan, I never saw anyone smoke before on the streets, but now there's more people. And I think it's just kind of a really beautiful thing that you've become, you guys have kind of spearheaded this kind of growth towards acceptance. And, you know, the fact that when suits come into New York and then they're like, ooh, have you heard about this Happy Munkey thing? It's you guys are not just like state and national, it's actually international. Have you guys been thinking about expanding outside of the United States?
Yeah, definitely. I want to start though by saying what you mentioned earlier, which is part of our goal, is that we all aspire to inspire. So part of our goal, Lulu, is to inspire others to join this industry and really, put their best foot forward. One of our biggest goals is to inspire people that look like us, that come from marginalized communities, to inspire them that if we did it, they could do it, and we hope that they become like us or even bigger. And that is part of the goal, to really, inspire people to really help this industry grow and really give it the full energy and the full love that it deserves from all aspects and all walks of life. So, like, we're happy that we've inspired people to come out the closet, to take their journeys to become entrepreneurs, because that's the goal. We aspire to inspire. And as far as like what you're saying, that is part of the goal. As you guys know, I was in Forbes, and that's one of the things I mentioned, that for the future of Happy Munkey, some of the things that we have, hopefully planned in the future, is that we hopefully plan, of course, to have like, retail license and delivery license in New York whenever that comes along. But aside from that, whenever they really catch on as far as like consumption lounges licensing, we feel like, obviously one of the pioneers when it comes to that. So we definitely want to have a global franchise, because like you said, we feel like the brand awareness is there, and we have the experience of doing it in the toughest city in the world. So I feel like when you can do it fully optimally, I feel like we can do it even better. And of course, now when things normalize, hopefully a little bit, we want to do Happy Munkey festivals and go and do different, like, events throughout the country and some parts of the world, hopefully.
Love it. There's definitely fewer places more authentic than a Happy Munkey lounge. So any of these licenses that popped up in California, like, they're not touching the vibes you guys already have. So I know you'll be successful in that. I have a question from the audience here. With New York's history of racist policing, has policing changed with legalization of marijuana? And I'll just caveat for anybody that doesn't know, it's only medically legal and pretty restrictive.
Well, I must say, to answer this person's question, Jacobi, it has changed a lot, because growing up, it's sad to say, I and everybody that I grew up around thought it was normal to get arrested at a frequent basis for consuming cannabis. And I mean arrested, not like getting a summons, like being arrested and going through the system for 24 hours for smoking was a common occurrence for like all the way up to, like, I would say maybe like 7, 8 years ago, when things started decriminalized, or 6 years ago. Before that, at least in the urban communities and the communities of color, it was commonplace for police to make their quota by arresting large number of people of color from the neighborhoods for smoking cannabis, which was crazy. Now you don't see it as much now, even though, like you said, it's still not all the way there yet, that you don't see as much, which is a blessing, because now that we look back at it, it's just insanity that we thought that was normal.
And looking forward to what you would, so we're making progress, but we're not quite there. Looking forward, what would you like to see legalization look like in New York? What are the things that are important to you?
Well, of course, for people of color to be included and all marginalized people. But I think that, since, like we mentioned earlier, right, I'm a realistic, practical person, right? So I don't live in a fantasy land. So like I mentioned earlier, it's the highest consuming city and state in the world. So I feel like they should do things in pieces, instead of just trying to just unleash this volcano without doing it correctly. I think it'll be smarter if they added not ground flower, actually official flower to medical, and then ramped up their grows, the infrastructure, more licenses, and then got ready for recreational, and hopefully when they did it that way, then they can include as many people as possible. They can give opportunities to as many people as possible. They can, you know, give access to communities that have been, victims of the war on drugs, and hopefully, be able to be sustainable, because like I said, it's not going to be any easy feat to do it at the best level.
All right, so let's talk about Happy Munkey into the future, right? You guys have been doing events, which I imagine I don't know, tell me if you are or not, over the last couple months. But what I know you guys thinking, you might do bigger conferences. What's up with this media angle? How did you guys get to that? What's the grand vision here?
Well, we always dibbled and dabbled in media, but after January, we felt that there wasn't much left for us to prove when it came to events. So we felt like we had to take on a bigger mission. And we felt like media was the thing that was missing, because we really were looking at all the cannabis media throughout the country and throughout the world. And we felt like there was a big void where the East Coast, and specifically the tri-state area, was not being represented or really highlighted when it came to cannabis media at all. So we felt that because of all the things, like you said, Jacobi, that we've amassed during the years, our knowledge from the culture, our knowledge from the corporate, and our massive Rolodex that we've amassed, that we would be able to really, really create a voice and a platform for not just us, but for us to highlight everybody that's doing amazing things in the cannabis industry in the tri-state area and in the East Coast, that really don't get any light and any shine, because the media and the platforms here on the East Coast are not as available as they're on the West Coast. So it was a thing where not only for Happy Munkey, we knew that it was a smart business move, but we felt like it was necessary for the community here in the Northeast and in the East Coast to have a voice, and us to be able to uplift people in however way we can by giving them access to our platform.
Got you. So go for it, Peter.
I was just to say, I love the podcast. You guys have the lighters going. You can hear the people smoking. I feel like I'm there. It's a whole vibe. But you guys have done 60 episodes now. And with the lounge and all the events that you guys have thrown, my favorite smoke token story in New York is with my girlfriend. We copped on Vladimir and then we smoked him for a try on. So I just wanted to know, like, what's your number one story when you think of yo, that was a super New York night and it was awesome, it was crazy, or what is it? Because I'm sure you got tons, but if you could just share one.
I'm not gonna lie, one of the ones that was crazy was Steve D'Angelo's birthday. It was crazy that this man has access literally to the whole world in cannabis, and he made it his business and didn't even ask us, told us, I am celebrating my birthday with Happy Munkey, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, what are you gonna tell the Godfather of cannabis? So we already expected it to be cool or whatever, but it ended up being like some fantasy smoking situation. Matt Stone from South Park was there, Kevin Smith, Michael Lang, one of the founders of Woodstock. So imagine you're just smoking like these are like your homies, and these people are all icons in their own right, and it's just like that was one of the craziest situations, like as far as like smoking, like in a like experience, like you said.
Sounds very surreal, but like a typical night at Happy Munkey.
Crazy.
I also want to ask, as a Dominican, we grow up not, for the most part, I grew up in Tecotan, so drugs, even certain TV shows or brujeria and stuff. But as we are such a huge part of New York City, I think it's 1 in 8 people, or 1 in 8 people in New York has Dominican in them, something like that. I want to ask, how are you guys thinking about the intersection of that identity and educating people throughout the Heights and Dykeman and Inwood, and throughout the whole city, specifically Dominicans, on cannabis as medicine, and also as a potential for real generational wealth within our community, which we value so highly, but we don't really see this as an opportunity for us.
Well, that's a great question, because a lot of people don't understand, like, you know what I mean? Like, how important it is for us to really represent the culture correctly. And like you said, like to defeat the stigma, because people in the US think that their stigma was bad. But as you said, growing up, smoking cannabis in Dominican Republic and to our parents was like smoking crack or heroin. They had no knowledge and no information. So we felt that we also helped them change their perspective. And to answer your question about what we're going to do to inform, not just in the Heights, just like, because, now we have to think bigger at a global, regional scale. So now we are coming out with a show in the near future called Nota Alta, and it's going to be like similar to the Happy Munkey podcast on the Boulevard, but in Spanish, totally in Spanish, so they can really absorb the information, and so they can really know, because I know that there's a lot of people that have the question mark, what is Vladimir, what is Ramon, where are they from? So they can really know all over all the Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America and all over that there is a brand that is represented by first-generation, Latinos that are speaking for them and representing them here in New York and in the States. So I think I'm looking forward to that, because I really want to educate and really, inspire them to create their own movements throughout all the Latin countries and all the Spanish-speaking countries.
Yo, that's lit. Thank you for sharing. I'm definitely going to be consuming and have my ear to the ground when that comes out. Yo, that's so lit. I think that's so needed. I look forward to it. Best of luck in that. I'll be sharing it with everybody I know. That's so lit. That's so lit. Okay.
Vladimir, we're going to wrap up soon, but what other things you guys have coming in the short term that you want people to know about? That podcast is going to be dope. What else is coming up?
Well, good thing you asked. Actually, on our anniversary, the nearest thing, there's a lot of things coming up, but the nearest thing is on our anniversary right now, the 15th, we're dropping some new merchandise. I actually have one here. I don't know if you remember the ashtrays, but now we have them all in different colors. And then we're dropping some clothing, some t-shirts that are like super high quality, like, that I'm really excited for people to see. So you guys got to send me your info so I can send you and Lulu your care package, because you guys have to represent.
Yeah, I still
Happy
have
Munkey.
I have my hemp. You did the hemp t-shirt line.
Exactly. So that's what's coming up in the near future. And then, like I said, October, 1 year anniversary for the podcast. December, 1 year anniversary for Monkey Biz, the e-magazine. So just trying to finish off 2020 strong, even though it's been a tough year. We feel like we made it through the hurricane and all the madness that's happened, you know. And I feel like if we made it through this, we can make it through anything.
How do people get a hold of the t-shirts?
They go to happymunkey.com, and right there they can subscribe for our newsletter. They can subscribe to get, you know, different memos on all our merchandise and all our different shows and events coming up. So happymunkey.com with a U, not with a O.
Cool. One of our Revel teammates, who's watching on Facebook, texted me and said, "Hey, I need you to send me a shirt to Detroit so she can represent."
Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
That one's for
And
Heather.
actually,
Shout out to Heather.
we're going to Detroit soon. You know, tell Heather we're coming to see her because we're gonna do a pop-up in Detroit soon. You know, we're gonna visit some friends and hopefully get to check Heather out.
All right, Heather, you heard it. They're coming. Vlad.
One last question.
Yeah.
And how did the name Happy Munkey come to be?
Well, that's interesting. That was all Ramon. He already was into like the whole monkey zen vibe, and then he just added the monkey to it, and he just felt like, you know, he already was like the monkey was like his spirit animal or something, and then he just felt like, well, cannabis makes everybody happy, so that's what we're gonna be, Happy Munkey. And then of course the U comes from, you know, intellectual property purposes, and that's how it came about.
Right on, Vlad. You guys are going on 3 years, just being in existence. You guys have had, you know, numerous other successes that are coming up on anniversaries. And I just want to thank you for just representing for New York, for Dominicans, right? There's not enough talk about that in the cannabis industry, for being a pioneer and uplifting other people. Really just New York represent. Like if you go to New York, you got to go to Happy Munkey or you're not really getting the experience. So it's been a pleasure, bro.
I'm honored and, like I said, humbled that, you know, in your season finale, you guys have been instrumental in my growth and Happy Munkey's growth, because us going to the Revel events really helped us gain knowledge, meet amazing people in the industry. So I want to thank you for all your contribution to the industry and to us for always believing and supporting our movement. And like I said, I'm honored that you guys chose me to be here on your season finale, you know, and humbled. And I wish you guys nothing but health, wealth, and success. And I want to thank you for always being true and real.
We love you, Vlad.
Love you more.
Yeah, thank you, Vlad, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody that has tuned in today on Zoom, on Facebook, people on YouTube, throughout the entire season. It's been an honor. It's been fun. Special shout out to DJ O. He's been here every time mixing. There's certain times where his computer almost didn't make it.
His rhymes were, his spinning was, he had me bopping. When we first started, I was there like, ooh.
Thank you all for having me, man. It's been so great to be involved with this for real. Every episode is fascinating, and I'm happy to just be able to spin for 15 minutes and sit back and learn a bunch. So.
Yeah, bro, much appreciated. I also want to give a shout out to our team that's not on the show regularly. Liana has been instrumental, and I want to thank Heather and Jess on our social media team. Ryan, I'm not sure what he's been doing over the last 6 months, but he's still our dude, and we appreciate him. And Jesus, just everybody on the Revel team for making it happen. Am I missing anybody, Peter, Lulu?
Shout out to Shalise.
Shalise, yes, absolutely. But really just...
I know here on air, I need Lulu and Jacobi on the Boulevard on the Happy Munkey podcast. We need the cannabis royalty on there.
I don't know about royalty, but I'm there. Count me in.
We're both going to be back in New York for a couple of weeks, so let's go.
I'll have the green carpet waiting for you guys. I know you guys get the red carpet everywhere, but I'm going to have the green carpet waiting for you guys.
Excited?
All right. Yeah, man. I know it never disappoints. So we'll end on that. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This is Dope People. It's been a pleasure.